We're looking at something that could shake the entire global financial system. Japan, the world's most indebted advanced economy, just triggered a bond market explosion that has investors scrambling, a massive stimulus package that makes no sense, a currency behaving like it's from an emerging market, not a G7 powerhouse. And wait until you hear what this means for the United States and your wallet. Plus, I've saved the most alarming part for the very end of this episode, so stay with me. I spent years inside one of the big mainstream media organizations, the kind everyone knows. I watched editors bury stories that didn't fit the narrative, saw facts get twisted to serve interests that had nothing to do with truth. So I left. Now I'm independent, based in Europe, and I answer to no one but you. I tell you what's really happening, not what someone wants you to believe. And speaking of the truth, I need your help to keep doing this. If you find value in what I'm bringing you, hit that like button, subscribe to this channel, and if you can, please consider sponsoring my work. We put in serious hours every single day, fact-checking, digging through sources, making sure you're not fed fake news or half-truths. It's exhausting, it's difficult, but it matters. Your support makes it possible. And trust me, you're going to want to watch until the very end today, because what I'm about to reveal gets even more disturbing as we go. So here's what just happened. Japan, a country carrying a debt load of roughly 230% of its GDP, has been treated like some kind of economic unicorn for decades. The rules didn't seem to apply. Massive debt, ultra-low interest rates, and somehow everything just kept humming along. Markets shrugged. Economists called it an anomaly. But that illusion just shattered, and it happened fast. Prime Minister Ishiba Shigeru, barely 6 weeks into office, rolled out a stimulus package worth $135 billion. And this isn't your typical infrastructure, spending, or innovation push. No, this thing is stuffed with political giveaways, rice vouchers, fossil fuel subsidies, cash handouts that look designed to buy votes, not stimulate an economy. It's populism dressed up as policy, and the markets saw right through it. The reaction was immediate and violent. Japanese government bond yields, which had been practically frozen for decades, spiked hard. The 10-year bond hit 1.9%, a level not seen since 1997. Now, if you're thinking that doesn't sound like much, you're missing the point. For a country that has survived on near-zero interest rates for an entire generation, even a small move like this is catastrophic. And here's the kicker, it's only the beginning. But why should you care about Japanese bond yields? Stick with me, because this is where it gets personal. Japan isn't just any country in the global financial system. It's the largest foreign buyer of United States debt. That's right, when Washington needs to borrow money to keep the lights on, to fund everything from the military to social programs, Japan is the one stepping up and buying those treasury bonds. Now imagine what happens if Japan can no longer afford to do that. If they're too busy dealing with their own debt crisis, their own spiking interest costs, and they start pulling back. Where does that leave the United States? It leaves us scrambling to find other buyers, and that means higher borrowing costs for Washington, which eventually means higher costs for you. This is a very, very dangerous game, and most people have no idea it's even being played. Let me paint you a clearer picture of what's happening on the ground in Japan right now. The yen, Japan's currency, is hovering near 155 yen to the dollar. That's close to its weakest level in half a century. For decades, whenever global markets got shaky, the yen was the safe haven. Money would flow back into Japan, the yen would surge, and stability would return. It was predictable, reliable. Not anymore. Now the yen is acting like a currency from an emerging market, volatile, vulnerable, exposed to every external pressure. Investors are no longer treating it as safe. In fact, some are starting to flee, and if that capital flight accelerates, if confidence collapses, the yen could go into freefall. That kind of currency crisis doesn't stay contained. It spreads. Economists inside Japan are using words like Liz Truss-style meltdown. If you remember what happened in the UK when former Prime Minister Liz Truss tried her disastrous mini-budget, you know that's not a comparison anyone wants to hear. Markets revolted, bond yields exploded, and she was out of office within weeks. Japan is flirting with that exact same scenario. And here's what makes this even more alarming. Japan's debt service costs were already climbing before this stimulus blitz. Now, with higher interest rates and more borrowing, those costs are about to skyrocket. The IMF is projecting that Japan's annual interest payments will double by 2030. But wait, it gets worse. By 2036, those payments are expected to quadruple. And that's assuming everything goes smoothly, which it won't. Think about that for a second. A country already spending a massive chunk of its budget just to service existing debt is about to see those costs explode. That means less money for everything else. Less for infrastructure, less for education, less for healthcare, less for innovation. The entire economy starts to choke under the weight of its own debt. And when an economy the size of Japan starts to choke, the whole world feels it. Now, Prime Minister Ishiba has made a choice that's baffling to many experts. He's abandoned Japan's target for a primary budget surplus and opted instead for a spending blitz that mixes a bit of industrial policy with a whole lot of pure populism. Sure, there are investments in AI, semiconductors, quantum computing, things that might pay off someday, but much of the rest, waste, pure and simple. And the timing could not be worse. After decades of deflation, inflation has finally returned to Japan. That means the era of zero-rate financing, the thing that made all this massive debt manageable, is over. For 40 years, Japan's annual interest costs hovered around 10 trillion yen. Even as the debt kept piling up, that equilibrium is breaking. As older bonds mature and new ones get issued at higher yields, Japan's interest bill is going to explode. But here's the thing that should really worry you. Japan's troubles are not happening in isolation. This is part of a much broader, far more dangerous global trend. We are entering an era where high debt and high interest rates are colliding, and the major economies of the world are completely unprepared. Let's talk about the United States for a moment. I cover this frequently on this channel, and for good reason. The US now carries a federal debt load of around 125% of GDP. Interest payments on that debt are rising faster than defense spending, faster than social spending. We're already past the $1 trillion mark annually just to service the debt. And it's accelerating. Then there's China, once the engine of global investment and growth. Now they're facing a slow motion crisis in real estate, massive local government debt, and an economy that's losing steam. Over in Europe, the EU is carrying a debt-to-GDP ratio near 95%, a level that's only been sustained because of years of artificially low interest rates courtesy of the European Central Bank. So you've got Japan, the United States, China, and Europe, the four pillars of the global financial system, and every single one of them is drowning in debt. Together, they hold the majority of the world's sovereign debt, and interest rates are no longer at zero. Central banks have kept rates elevated to fight inflation, and now governments everywhere are paying more and more just to service what they already owe. Here's where it gets even darker. The United Nations reports that 3.3 billion people, let that sink in, 3.3 billion people live in countries where their governments now spend more on interest payments than on health and education combined. And this isn't just happening in developing nations. It's coming for advanced economies too. It's coming for the United States. At the pace we're moving, with debt soaring and interest payments already over $1 trillion a year, it's only a matter of time before the US government is spending more on interest than on the programs that actually serve the people. That's not fear-mongering. That's basic math. Global debt has now reached a staggering $337 trillion. Sovereign bond issuance is hitting record highs. Markets are more volatile, more fragile, more interconnected than ever before. And here's the part that should keep you up at night. A shock in one major economy, especially one as critical as Japan, could ricochet across the entire global financial system. Japan still has some buffers, external assets, deep domestic markets, a central bank capable of extraordinary intervention. But those foundations are weakening. The era of Japanese financial exceptionalism is ending, and with it goes one of the world's most reliable economic shock absorbers, as well as the United States' reliance on Japan to keep buying its debt. If you've been wondering why this all matters, why you should care about bond yields in a country halfway around the world, this is why. Because when Japan sneezes, the United States catches a cold. And right now, Japan isn't just sneezing, it's showing symptoms of something far more serious. Some analysts are warning that Japan may soon face choices not seen since its post-war stabilization crisis. We're talking about measures like wealth taxes, even freezing bank deposits. These are desperate moves, the kind of things governments do when they've run out of options. And deeper structural problems are lurking beneath the surface. Japan's population is shrinking. Growth remains sluggish. The aging society keeps pushing costs higher and higher. Without real fiscal reforms, the debt dynamics will only get worse. We've entered a moment where the margin for error is shrinking fast. The global debt crisis is no longer some distant theoretical threat. It's unfolding right now, in real time. And Japan may be the first major test of whether the world is ready for what's coming next. And based on everything I'm seeing, the answer is no. we are not ready. So here's what you need to take away from this. Japan's bond market just sent a warning signal that cannot be ignored. A $135 billion stimulus package that makes no economic sense triggered a violent spike in bond yields. The yen is behaving like a currency in crisis. Japan's debt service costs are about to explode, doubling by 2030, quadrupling by 2036. And because Japan is the largest buyer of US debt, this crisis has a direct line to Washington, to your tax dollars, to your economic future. On top of that, global debt has hit $337 trillion, and we're in an environment where high debt meets high interest rates. That combination is toxic, and it's spreading. If this matters to you, if you want to keep getting this kind of independent analysis, please hit that like button, subscribe to this channel, and if you're able, consider sponsoring my work. I'm here every single day, digging into these stories, connecting the dots that others ignore because someone has to. Your support makes it possible. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Look, I want to be honest with you for a moment. What I do here, it's not easy. Every single day, I'm sifting through mountains of information, cross-referencing sources, verifying facts, making sure that what I bring to you is accurate and truthful. In a world drowning in fake news, in misleading headlines, in narratives pushed by people with agendas, that kind of work matters. It takes time, it takes effort, and it takes resources. I left the comfort and security of a major media organization because I couldn't stomach the lies anymore, because I couldn't be part of a machine that twisted the truth. But going independent means I rely entirely on people like you. There's no corporate backing here, no billionaire funding my work. It's just me, my commitment to the truth, and viewers who believe that honest journalism still has a place in this world. If you found value in this episode, if you appreciate having someone who digs deeper and connects the dots, please hit that like button and subscribe to this channel. And if you're in a position to do so, consider sponsoring my work through the links in the description below. Every bit of support helps me keep going, keep researching, keep bringing you the stories that matter. Thank you for being here. It means more than you know.